growth is up 105%. Cash flow is now positive. Derek Otsashari, you are a miracle worker. You said that the goalposts had moved in a May letter, and that you needed to show that you were making money. And I said, this is one guy who will do it. How'd you do it?
Well, listen, I will say that it wasn't just the May letter. It's a bunch of work that we've done over the past couple of years. And the May letter for us was symbolic in saying, hey, this is real. We're going to drive profitability. And you've seen the results, right? Which is the top line is strong, $29.1 billion in terms of gross bookings, up 36% constant currency. EBITDA, $364 million, well above our guidance range. It's $800 million better than what it was last year. And then, of course, show me the money. Free cash flow for the first time ever, $382 million in free cash flow. So it was a really, really strong quarter. But what's important to me is it was a strong quarter, both top line and bottom line.
We have to set up.
Right. Now, what's interesting is that there's lots of changes in the industry. Your delivery business, great. The number of people want to be drivers, great. The EVs, great. I mean, you've just checked box after box after box that a lot of people doubted you, and I know your team could do. This is a rather quick turn. So was the underlying business always great, or did everything start going your way at the same time you said, you know what, we got to start doing a cash flow?
I think we've always been the leader in our category. Now, you talk about the economic weakness, and there's a lot of talk there, but there has been a shift from spend on retail to spend on services, right? And we are the ultimate service company, and the world is reopening. Our mobility business is hitting it out of the park, not only in terms of top line and bottom line, but also in terms of competitive position. And in a market where more capital discipline is needed, we think that accrues to the biggest player.
Paramount News brings you a special coverage of Princess Anne's visit to Rome.
9 o'clock, we leave for the Polynarians and we buy lunch to foreign embassy of
Have you searched the grounds? Every inch, sir, from the attics to the cellar.
Yes, the growth is up 105%. Cash flow is now positive. Derek Otsashari, you are a miracle worker. You said that the goalposts had moved in a May letter, and that you needed to show that you were making money. And I said, this is one guy who will do it. How'd you do it?
Well, listen, I will say that it wasn't just the May letter. It's a bunch of work that we've done over the past couple of years. And the May letter for us was symbolic in saying, hey, this is real. We're going to drive profitability. And you've seen the results, right? Which is the top line is strong, $29.1 billion in terms of gross bookings, up 36% constant currency. EBITDA, $364 million, well above our guidance range. It's $800 million it was last year. And then, of course, show me the money. Free cash flow for the first time ever, $382 million in free cash flow. So it was a really, really strong quarter.
Clearly, the market listened to what was said yesterday and came away with a very negative impression about what those incentive costs would be. Speak to it if you could, and I'm curious what your sense of the reaction is.
Yeah, we're focused on the rebound. Q2 is an opportunity for us to kickstart a big year of growth. We're really happy with the numbers we put out in Q1, beating expectations on revenue, on adjusted EBITDA.
What do you need, sir?
And the simple message was we're going to invest in Q2. We understand the market reaction. We don't love the market reaction, but we're going to put up numbers into Q2, 3, and 4 that show ROI on those investments and pay off in the long run for the stock.
Why do you think that the market has reacted as negatively as it has?
It's a choppy market environment right now as a whole, and the market wants to understand the business model coming out of the pandemic. and we asked them to give us one more quarter to make investments that we feel like are the right thing to do for.
I'm trying to hold my breath, let it stay this way. Can't let this moment end. You set off a dream in me, getting louder now. Can you hear it echoing? Take my hand, won't you share this with me? 'Cause darling, without you, all the shine of 1,000 spotlights, all the stars we steal from the night sky will never be enough, never be enough. Towers of gold are still too little. These
What's going on, everyone? It's Connor Maynard here, joined by Pixie Lot. Now, listen, it's a little bit awkward because Pixie's been asking me out for a while now.
No, I haven't.
Just one date, please. Just go on one date with me. Listen, just give me your number. It doesn't need to be real. I will never call you. Okay? I just want to tell my friends that I got it.
Connor, I'm engaged.
Yeah, he doesn't need to know.
I think there's a camera recording it.
Sometimes it's impossible to separate the company from the founder. Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, Steve Jobs and Apple, Elon Musk and Tesla. And for better or worse,
it's hard to see anyone thinking about Uber without quickly thinking about, Travis Kalanick. But that's not always a good thing for the company.
that's our new company.
I cover Uber and startups.
Kalanick has become a lightning rod of controversy in the tech industry over the past few years. Seth Meyers said he's what happens when you
Spray Axe body spray into a suit until it became sentient.
And after a number of damaging scandals, Kalanick resigned as CEO from his $69 billion.
I had no idea that this was something that would happen. We started out Uber. It was for me, my co-founder, and our 100 friends.
Michael has apologized, but he has not been fired.
We started with $20. How much is the mile now? $2.75? You know what? Some people don't want to take responsibility. I take responsibility. They blame everything in their life on somebody else. Email for town card. Good luck. Good luck to you too. But I know you don't gonna go far.
When demand outstrips supply,
Yes.
the price comes up in a particular neighborhood or across a city. If it's
My next guest is the co-founder and CEO of the ride-hailing app Uber, and he'll be out here in 10 seconds. Please welcome Travis Kalanick. Well, welcome. How'd you get here tonight?
Push the button, got a ride.
Did you really?
Yeah.
How many people here have used Uber so far? Let me tell you how I first learned about Uber. Okay. I was, and I'm going to drop a few names here. I was coming out of the White House.
Boom.
I had just been at a state dinner where I was the dining companion of Michelle Obama, and I was walking out of the White House with the director, J.J. Abrams. And I said, JJ, you want to get a ride?
September's like a long way away, and all I remember is coming back to Newton.
After decades of silence, the CDC is speaking up about America's gun violence epidemic.
Gun violence in America is a public health emergency.
Gun violence is a public health issue.
We need to start thinking of this as a public health crisis.
Republican Congressman Jay Dickey is infamous for a 1996 law prohibiting the CDC from using federal funds to advocate for gun control.
The Dickey Amendment.
The so-called Dickey Amendment.
Remember the Dickey Amendment, which has effectively kept the CDC from studying gun violence?
What inspired the Dickey Amendment was a blockbuster night.
How can we design and implement programs that reduce poverty? How can we build the resilience of the poorest households in the world? How can we forecast the types and level of assistance in an emergency to enable the earliest possible response? These are some of the questions that face decision makers in the developing world. Household Economy Analysis, or HEA, can provide evidence-based answers to these and many other questions. HEA was first developed in the 1990s. Since then, it has been used by UN agencies, NGOs, governments, donors, and private companies in almost 70 countries to inform a wide range of decisions. HEA develops a quantitative picture of all economic interactions within a household over a full 12-month period. We focus on the household because most people live within this coherent economic unit. Households are part of a local livelihood system, which is connected to the wider world through a web of economic interactions. HEA forecasts how different shocks and external interventions will affect households. For example, it can determine whether households can manage on their own after a shock or need additional help. So how does HEA work? We start by dividing areas into distinct geographic zones within which people live in more or less the same way. In this example, households along the river have a different means of production and different market interactions from those inland, where the soils are poor and rainfall is erratic. The production and market system is again different in the hills, where rainfall is higher and soils more fertile. We call these different areas livelihood zones, and we do fieldwork in each separately. Let's look at the riverine livelihood zone. Households here depend on farming rice and vegetables, raising livestock, and working as laborers. Within each village, households differ in wealth and social status. So the next step in HEA is to work with community leaders to divide households into separate groups, ranging from very poor to better off. We then interview representatives from each wealth group in at least 8 villages to produce a full economic picture for a typical household in each wealth group. All food and cash sources are quantified, and the economic links between wealth groups are mapped out. In this example, better off households own land, livestock, and boats. They produce most of the food they eat and buy the remainder from the market. They earn money from selling crops, livestock, and fish. Poor households have less land, fewer livestock, and no boats. So they produce less of their own food and have to buy more from the market. To earn cash, they sell crops and livestock, but most of their money comes from working for wealthier households within the village. One household member also migrates for work. By developing a seasonal calendar, we can see when in the year these activities are done. Households in different wealth groups also spend their money in different ways. Understanding these expenditure patterns can help decision makers tailor cash transfer programs to meet their needs. HEA includes rigorous cross-checks within each interview and during analysis to ensure that the information is accurate. expenditure and income must roughly balance. And food is converted into calorie equivalents, which allows you to add up household food over the year and compare it to the international reference point of 2,100 kilocalories per person per day. We triangulate all information collected at the village level with secondary data and with data from the markets and key informants. The analytical power of HEA is that it allows us to predict how households will be affected by different shocks. This sets the stage for an effective early response. Let's return to the riverine area to see how this works. In this example of a drought, poor households lose 50% of their crop. To cope, households reduce their expenditure on non-essential items and increase their income from labor migration. After taking into account these coping strategies, we can see whether the household faces a deficit by comparing their remaining income to a locally relevant threshold. We can calculate the deficit in food or in cash terms, and use a seasonal calendar to show when in the year it will occur. Better off households have absolute losses that are larger, but because they produce a surplus to begin with, they do not have a deficit. HEA can model the effects of different scenarios, for example, different severities of drought, floods, a market closure, a price shock, a conflict, or even a combination of these. This means we don't have to wait until a disaster happens to predict what the deficit will be. HEA modeling isn't limited to negative scenarios. Different types of program interventions can be modeled too. This means we can predict which program will have the most positive economic impact on households and show any negative unintended consequences before the program has started. And we can compare the estimated net income to any number of thresholds. What's more, this modeling can be done for multiple years, showing how a typical 5 to 10 year period of shocks and program interventions will either build or undermine the resilience of households in the long term. HEA thus helps us to understand how households make ends meet and can be customized to inform a range of decisions critical to humanitarian and development planning. HEA, linking the reality of poor households to better decision making.
What is the point of an economic impact analysis? Ever wonder what an economic impact study is and how it could benefit your community? An economic impact analysis measures how a particular